please stand for the presentation of the colors and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Honor guard. Post. Colors. Present arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Ready. Face.
You may be seated. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Frazier. I'm the city manager here in the city of Surprise. And welcome to the dedication and ribbon cutting ceremony for the Veterans Reflection Circle in honor of Sergeant First Class Brian Scott Mancini. I would like to invite the Honorable Mayor Skip Hall to step forward and introduce some very special guests and make a few remarks. Mayor Hall.
Thank you, Mike. What a beautiful morning. And what an honor it is for me to be here to open this incredible space to the public. We have some special guests here today that I'd like to recognize. Brian's family is here. His parents, Jackie and John, his sister, Nicole, and her husband, Brandon, his brother, Michael, and his wife, Isabel, and his extended family and close friends, including Barry Kerseiden and Bud Gilbert. Our city council is also here today. We have Vice Mayor Roland Winters and council members Nancy Hayden, Patrick Duffy, Ken Remley, David Sanders, and Chris Judd. I'd also like to recognize our national and state elected officials that are in attendance. United States Congresswoman Debbie Lesko is here. State Senator Rick Gray, State Senator David Livingston, State Representative Joanne Osborne, Matt Shuimo, on behalf of the United States Senator Martha McSally, and Mayor Mike LaVault from the city of Youngtown is here. To our many city board and commission members in attendance today, thank you for being here and for your service to Surprise. Let's all take a moment to recognize both the active service, military, and veterans who are here. If you could please raise your hand if you're currently serving or have served so that we can recognize you and thank you for your service to the nation. Surprise is a city that supports veterans. From job programs to the naming of the Bell Road Bridge over Grand as Veterans Bridge, to the creation of a Veterans Disability and Human Services Commission. We believe it's very important to show our appreciation for those who have served our country. In this beautiful space, the Veterans Reflections Circle shines brightly as an example of our commitment to our veterans. Later in the program, you'll hear more about the story of how this Reflection Circle came to be and the man we dedicate this space in honor of, Sergeant First Class Brian Mancini. Now I invite Brian's family and our city council to please join me in front of the podium so that we may cut the ribbon and officially open the Veterans Reflection Circle.
This moment, this cutting of the ribbon is a very different story than most city projects. When I try to think of a single word to describe the feelings of this day, I simply cannot. And when you learn more about the man we honor through the building of the space, you can understand why. Sergeant First Class Brian Mancini was a combat medic who served 2 tours in Iraq. He was severely injured in a roadside bomb attack in Baghdad in 2007 that changed many things for Brian, both physically and mentally, but it did not change his heart. When Brian came home to Surprise, he had one thing in mind, and that was to help other combat veterans through their healing process. He started Honor House, where wounded veterans could find counseling, therapy, and emotional support. Before his passing in 2017, he was able to help many of them, and his legacy lives through Honor House and through this new space, the Veterans Reflection Circle. In June of this last year, the city assembled its Honoring an Exceptional Leader Task Force to determine how best to honor Brian. There was no question that his legacy needed to be permanently woven into the fabric of our city. The question was how to honor him in the right way, fitting of a hero. As the task force continued to meet and discuss, 2 members of the design community came forward with a vision. Jesse Westad of Works Urban Design and Jerry Moore with Logan Simpson that honored Brian. They had a vision, a place in nature that honored Brian and all veterans, a place that told the story of veterans' internal struggle and provided quiet reflection space within nature to process and heal. The generosity and heart of these design firms inspired the idea to invite members of the construction and landscape communities to become partners in creating the Veterans Reflection Circle by donating products and services to help bring this incredible project to life. Nearly 40 companies answered the call and came together to build this project. They have given their time, expertise, and resources freely to the city, some maybe even at the cost of not taking on other projects just to be part of this special place. I can't thank each of them enough for what they've given in honor of Brian and all veterans. There are so many words that come to mind when I reflect on what has transpired here. I think of bravery, sacrifice, of selflessness. I think of generosity and teamwork. I think of honor and reflection and healing. And if that doesn't sound like Brian Mancini, I don't know what does. There's a quote by author and speaker Jim Rohn that says, "Only by giving you are able to receive more than you already have." I have heard many stories throughout this project, stories from people who have touched it in one way or another and felt that they received more than what they gave by being part of it. One of those people is Jesse Westad, who I mentioned earlier is one of the designers of this space. And I know that Jesse wanted to say a few words, so Jesse, please come up now.
So we finally made it to today. It's been quite a journey to get to this point. Although it's only been a year, it feels a lot longer than that. And prior to coming to today, I was kind of going back and forth on whether to wear my dress blues, my old service uniform. I hadn't worn them since 2004. When I did the memorial service for Sergeant First Class Lipscomb down in Fort Huachuca. And then when I was gonna go to my buddy Sergeant Padilla's funeral, I decided to keep those packed away because I didn't want them to always be associated with something bad. And for today, it's just kind of the end of a journey for me. And again, I decided not to put on the uniform and maybe just wear my little Army lapel pin and my little parachute wings. And the thing about a uniform is that it tells a story. It tells a story about the soldier, where he's been, who his unit was, what deployments he's done, whether he's a paratrooper or just a dirty, nasty leg. It tells you everything you need to know about him. And when we were looking at this spot and designing this place for Brian, I wanted it to do the same thing that a uniform does for a soldier. I wanted it to tell his story. So there's a lot of meaning in everything that's around us at this place. And when I got brought on, Logan Simpson, they were amazing to just kind of trust me and bring me in, and then just the construction team in general, as we worked through this thing, everybody had a huge open heart and helped with the design. So how do you make a memorial for somebody like Sergeant First Class Mancini, somebody that's larger than life, somebody that when he got blown up did a finger sweep on himself and tried to spit out his teeth and just fought to the end, when he was in the hospital back in DC where he bit out the copper that was lodged in his throat and just said, guys, like, little help here. When he went, and then to kind of go through all that adversity and then still keep kind of the Joker side about him, where he would open up and say, I used to look like Brad Pitt, prior to this injury, or go into a restaurant and putting his glass eyeball in a drink and then telling the waiter, I think there's something wrong with this drink because when I got to the bottom, there's a glass eyeball in it. So how do you memorialize somebody like that goes through so much, that should have been dead on the battlefield in 2007, and he guts it out for 10 more years and goes on borrowed time and keeps helping out the veteran community and looking at the spots where he felt there was issues and how he could still come through and help us out. So what I wanted to do was just keep that flame going, like to take that up and continue what Sergeant First Class Mancini did and keep that legacy going. So the whole thought process behind this memorial is something more than just, hey, we're going to put up a little American flag and a plaque and a little bench and call it good. Because that's not Sergeant First Class Mancini. That's somebody else. Like, Sergeant First Class Mancini expected more. So I wanted to provide a place that memorialized him. So we wanted to look at, kind of break this thing down into 3 parts. Look at what the veteran goes through when he comes back from the military, his impact on the community, and then that kind of breaking past, kind of going on to the afterlife. So as you walked in, you saw it's kind of a jagged path coming into this inner circle. And what that represents is that soldier when he's returning back home. And the plant palette here in the middle is, a protectionist plant palette, cactus, things got spikes. But inside this cactus, inside these plants are these beautiful flowers that come out, just like veterans when they're trying to kind of keep that self-defense mechanism out, but they have this real beauty inside of them. And that kind of spiral with the hard metal is kind of representing, being back in Iraq and throwing those metal plates onto your vehicles because, back in 2003, we're just cruising around like Humvees with convertibles. We don't need to throw the extra armor on it, or we didn't have it, so we kind of took care of ourselves. And then as the spiral moves around, it moves out to this outer boundary and through these berms, and that's Brian's impact on the community. And it's his family and friends, all at different levels going through this. And it brings you around all the way out to the Bremer Walls. And kind of the point of the Bremer Walls was that if you're a soldier coming back from Iraq, how do you make this memorial seem closer to home? And you have these Jersey barriers, you have these T-walls, these Bremer Walls all over Iraq. It's around all your bases. It's just a part of the urban fabric there. And as soldiers, you either paint murals on them, you put your unit on it. If you lose a soldier, you kind of make a memorial to them showing that they had been there. So what I want to do is, since Brian never got his memorial over in Iraq, I wanted to bring that back home and make sure that he had a memorial here in his hometown of Surprise. And that was the whole point of bringing the Bremer Walls in, where we've got his bio on one side, you've got his pity poem on the other, and then we also have our project team, and then what the murals represent on this one side is kind of the journey through Iraq, the main supply route, and then getting medevaced out, and then opening up Honor House and going to that next piece. And then what the mural on this side represents is the memorial itself. It kind of has that, you're coming back to the U.S. and you've got your buddies over there, and I think your mind's kind of always in two places. You got, civilian life back home, but you're always thinking back to, what it's like being back in the desert, carrying that rifle, rucking out with those guys that you called brothers and sisters. And I think that's the first wall kind of represents that, where you're just kind of torn between these two lives that you're leading. And then it moves out to the fishhook barrel, which kind of represents that circle of life around you, and then finally turning into the butterfly and going out to the lake. So kind of what I was representing is that it all comes back to Brian's bench right here and his view out to the lake, because that's what he enjoyed, was nature and fishing. And so if you're in this place and you've got the sound of the water, you can imagine Brian right here gazing out to the lake, and you've got hummingbirds and butterflies floating around, and it just feels like a place of life. And what I didn't want was just a stagnant, artificial, sterile place. I wanted this place to be full of life, and no matter what time of the season you're going to be here, it's going to be different things at different times. In the wintertime, this tree's going to lose all its leaves, so that way Brian can get some sun on his head, make sure he's got some sunscreen going. And then you'll see it come back to life. You'll see different things blooming at different times, and it's going to continuously grow. So, we're looking at what it's like today is different than a year from now, is different from 5, is different from 10 and 15, and it'll continue to grow and be a part of this community. And if you're a veteran, I hope you can come here and realize that this place is for you, because that's what Brian would have wanted. It's not just about him. He wanted to still take care of the community. So this is a place for veterans to come and their families, and to think about the times that they've gone through and be a truly place of healing. Thanks.
Thank you, Jesse. Brian Mancini was a soldier and a hero, but he was also a brother and a son. His mother, Jackie Williams, can be proud of the man she raised and the impact he left on so many. I would like to invite her up now just to share a few words. Jackie?
First off, I am not the speaker my son was, for sure. So try to get through this without crying. Brian did his best to be a giving, generous person. That is what all who had a part in creating this amazing place have done. You have given veterans and their families a place to come to reflect not only where they have been, but perhaps hope for their future, because there are people who still care. You have given others a place to come and hopefully reflect on their freedoms because of the men and women who have served and continue to serve this great country. I believe I can speak from not only myself, but my family as well. We are humbled and honored for all the heartfelt work that has been given by so many. Thank you doesn't seem to be enough, but is a deeply emotional thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. And thank you for letting us share Brian's story with the community. My hope is that veterans from all over will visit here and often feel honored and find healing. I hope the community will stop to reflect on the sacrifice of our military and pay their respects. There is something very special that's happened here. I know I feel it. I hope you do as well. It's the power of a legacy, the beauty of generosity, the strength of a supportive community. And Brian would not want to feel pitied today. His own words tell that truth in a poem he wrote after the bombing in Baghdad. As we close this dedication ceremony, I leave you with this, a recording of Sergeant First Class Brian Scott Mancini reading his poem, Pity.
Pity. Don't you dare pity me, for I live pity-free. I would do it all over again, if need be, for this great nation, 'tis of thee. I stand tall and proud, so don't you dare pity me, for I live and will die pity-free. No matter how mangled my body it may be, the scars and pain are simple reminders, you see. The sacrifices made for the land of the free. There are many more who have given more than me, so I honor them by living pity-free. I have one request, can you do it for me? Please, don't you dare pity me, for I live proud and pity-free.